And Jesus answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass. But the end is not yet. Good evening and welcome back to Everyday Man of God Ministries. It is great to have you on board as always. I do appreciate you tuning in. Now, as you'll no doubt see, the title of this particular episode will be referencing wars and rumors of wars. And why? From 1775, which was the beginning of the Revolutionary War, there have been many conflicts, altercations, skirmishes, or any other word you want to put on it, to describe the different events in this country and outside of this country. I'm not going to be talking about pre-1775. There were skirmishes then with the Indians and different colonialists and French and Spaniards and so forth, and Indians against Indians, and there's a lot going on there. But the reason I'm choosing 1775, the beginning of the Revolutionary War, is to illustrate or to talk about where we are today and why we should be both concerned and not concerned, worried but not worried, depending who you are and where you are in the walk of your life and who you are following, man or Christ. That is important. There have been 17 well-documented wars that become considered the most major events that were here or involved Americans in some fashion. And many will argue there have been more. There are all these other things, and I agree. Since World War II, we have probably not spent 1 year without being in some sort of conflict at some level since 1775, which is 247 years ago. That's nearly 80 years of documented major events, which is around 80 into 2247, do the math, 80, 24, roughly 30 to 33% of the time that we have declared our independence. So a third of the time that we have been considered independent, a country, we have been in documented conflict, or what is considered. Now, we're going to get into that even later on, of documentation, what should or should not be. But let's go through a few of these. As we have already mentioned, the Revolutionary War, that was from 1775 to 1784. Yes, if you're thinking to yourself, does he have this memorized? I'm not going to lie to you, no, I don't have each date memorized. But that's 9 years. Well, it was the beginning of our country, Steve. The colonialists versus the Great Britain, independence. It was going to take a while. I agree with you. That's 1784. Franco-American War, 1798 to 1800. So now we have a couple more years of war. And that was us, United States, first France. So we should be done now, right? We took care of France. Let's move on now. We don't have to continue this. Well, now we have the Barbary Wars. That was from 1801 to 1805. That was the United States versus Morocco, the Algerians, Tunis, and Tripoli. Remember, you got the Marine song, On the Shores of Tripoli. That's a Marine song, I believe. 4 years we spent there. And then the War of 1812. No, the War of 1812 wasn't just only the War of 1812, like 1812, we just there, done, moved on. 1812 to 1815. And that was the United States, first Great Britain, involving Canada. Of how the Army was going to invade Canada and so forth and so on. You can look up the history on that. Then there's the Creek War, 1813 to 1814. That was the United States and the Native American tribes in Britain and Spain. But we got a break now. 20 years have gone by now. And now we have the War of Texas Independence, 1836. That was Texas versus Mexico. Then there was the Mexican-American War, 1846 to 1848. Another couple of years. United States versus Mexico. Then there was the U.S. Civil War. Now, a lot of us know the United States Civil War from 1861 to 1865, the Union versus the Confederacy. Boy, if you don't know anything about that war, even if you got one thing right on it, you're doing okay. I mean, it's impossible for you not to. Grant and Robert E. Lee and the reasons for the war, slavery, cotton, wages, industry, money, Federal Reserve, the Roman Catholic Church, freedom. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. A lot of different angles involved there. Then there was the Spanish-American War, 1898. Yes, that was the United States versus who? Spain. Although you're thinking to yourself, wait, wasn't Spain involved somewhere before? Yes, that was during the Creek War, and that was more about Southwest Florida areas. Spaniards were in that area, but looked at history up and trying to get control of that section. All right, so now that's the Spanish-American War, 1898. So, okay, now we've got a break now. We're going to go into the 1900s now, the 20th century. Maybe things will finally cool down. World War I, 1914 to 1918. And that involved who? Well, most of the world. All right, so we're going to move on now. End of the world, we've got treaties, we've got all this, we've got, political figures of, hey, listen, you have that, we take this, everything's cool, man. We're going to be all right. We've done our backroom dealing, we're fine now. I mean, we've done everything unbiblically as possible and basically thumbed our nose at God, but hey, no big deal, we got this. We can do these things without God. So World War II comes, 1939 to 1945. And that involved who? Well, most of the world again. And then there was the Korean War, 1950 to 1953. And as you guessed it, Korean War, United States and the United Nations with South Korea versus North Korea and Communist China. Some will say, oh, China, so it goes back to 1950. Actually, it goes a little further back than that, actually. We've had involvement with them before, but there's some other things that, well, I'm not going to go into the whole history of it. There's a lot of documents and things that have come out in the last 20 years of our involvement in China, with China. And then there was the Vietnam War, which some will argue really started during the Korean War, but Vietnam War, documentation-wise, 1960 to 1975. That's 15 years. 15 years. So think about just the beginning of World War I. So you got World War I, 1914. Now the end of Vietnam War supposedly was in 1975. So that in that time frame, that is four major wars in a 61-year period. 1914 to 1975. 4 wars and 40. So basically there's a war every 10 years, it averages out, right? 4 here, 6 there, 3 there, 15 there. So that's 3, 6. Now I'm just adding it on the fly. So we have 4, 6, 10, 13, 28. 28 out of those 41 years were in war. It's absolutely stunning and amazing. But don't worry, America's here to save everybody. Then you got the Bay of Pigs in 1961 when the United States was involved in Cuba. Then you had the missile crisis with Russia and Khrushchev. I think it was Khrushchev, Nikita Khrushchev. I think he was the one involved with that. Did I say Khrushchev? Khrushchev. Yeah, I'm right, Khrushchev. Russia was under Khrushchev at that point in time. Ironically, he died a poor man, and he was going to come out and basically say how bad the situation was, and they shouldn't have done what they did, and what a shocker they was trying to go back there. Then there was Grenada, 1983. Panama, 1989. Persian Gulf, 1990-91. Remember Storm Norman? Norman Schwarzkopf. I remember that at the time frame too. There was all these little pins, Desert Shield, and you could buy these little baseball-like type cards. I'm like, it's not a game. Well, we didn't lose too many people. Well, tell that to the families who lost people. And Bosnia and Herzegovina, or Govina, or whatever it's called, 1995, 96. Nobody remembers that much. Genocides during that time frame. Can't remember that guy's name, though. I can see him in my face, in my brain, but I can't remember the guy's name. Somebody out there will remember that. He was hooked up to the Clintons. Then the Clintons had to deny that they were hooked up to him, even though plenty of documentation to prove otherwise. And I'm not even going to go through each of them from 2000 on, or 2001. 2001 to now. I can't name every single one in that time frame. Can you name every single one? Let's name a few. Afghanistan, Iraq, Pakistan, Kenya, the Somalian pirates. Remember that? That wasn't even a 1-year deal either. That was a long duration of time dealing with that. Libya, with wow, I can't remember his name. He had all the female security guards. I can't remember that guy's name. Tried to get him in a tent at one point in time. Oh my goodness, I can't remember the gentleman's name. Uganda, Syria, Yemen. Remember the big hole-sized ship that got blown? Al-Qaeda, ISIS. Notice how we went from our keeping wars basically more local, or battles or conflicts or skirmishes, and then we're like, hey, you know what? Let's branch out. Let's get involved with some other stuff. So we branched out. Still gonna bug me. Gaddafi. I think it was Omar Gaddafi. That's who I'm thinking of. You had him. You got Iraq with Saddam Hussein, who was hanged. Noriega, which was in Panama, or Grenada, not Panama, who was probably working with the government. Let's not, this time frame too, we're talking about wars. We're not even talking about the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, Robert Kennedy, John F. Kennedy, the attempted assassinations of Ronald Reagan. A lot of things going on. But America, with a bastion of hope, freedom, peace. Well, now it's what? Equity and equality and diversity. So far, nothing biblical. Nothing at all. Zero. So let's go back to something that I said earlier. That we have been in constant battle since 1945. A lot of people believe that we have, and I agree that we have. Something I left out, the Cold War. And that was between right after World War II, which was 1945, but right afterwards, until 87, 89, when you had Ronald Reagan. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. Although we were building then walls other places, and we want walls on the border of Mexico, and we want walls in certain places. Now, I'm not saying that wall should not have come down. That's not what I'm saying. Walls keep on coming along, don't they? Whether they be physical, spiritual, emotional. That is, 45 to, let's say, 89. That's, that's 44 years. 44 years. Of course, these were secret wars, and spies, conspiracies, and so forth. So if you pull back the overview of this country since 1775. You know how you go on a map, you hit the plus and minus, you look at the piece of land and you pull back to get a bigger picture of the whole thing? Since 1775, we have been in constant conflict. That's 247 years of constant conflict. Imagine that. That's a lot of time. And we're overdue as an empire, too. We're not an empire. Don't fool yourself. Sure we are. Sure we are. But that was then. Those are all those battles and wars in this country. We've got everything straightened out. Really. Really. So as we look at everything going on today, now, you got the Syria going on, the Russian jet, the China balloon, the drone attacks that just happened, the pulling out of Afghanistan. How about the streets outside your own home today, where you're located? You might be in New York. Maybe you're in California, in San Francisco. Maybe you're down in Waco, Texas right now. Maybe you were over in Uvalde. Maybe you were in all these different places. Maybe you're in a town where migrants are being flown in. I'm not saying that as a positive or a negative thing against whoever these people are. Maybe you're not there. Maybe you live on the border where all these people are flooding into the towns and crime is coming along with people who are just seeking peace, but not vetting a single person. Maybe you're seeing that today. But here's the thing. It is the same as it was, as it always has been, but it is different also. How is it different? There were wars. There are wars now. There was conflict still here today. Murders just like today. Killings just like today. It has always been since nearly the beginning of time. But time began. Time has gone on. But time will end for all of us. Some, I know the some, I think we all know who the some are, when the catching away happens. Some at the end of the world, when it's over. And some in their own individual time. They could die tomorrow of a heart attack. Maybe they're fighting cancer, and I hope they're going to survive this. Maybe they're shot somewhere. Maybe they've taken their own lives, and that's on the rise. Sadly, among children, that these people in power are destroying the same people that we're supposed to protect. Not the people in power, but the children that the Bible tells us to protect. This country, along with others, are murdering with words in their own hands. So make no mistake about it. We cannot and will not change, alter, go back into all these people coming back in time, or redirect time. Today we are facing the velocity of speed, which the end is coming. Well, how's it coming? Seriously? Well, they've been saying this for a long time. In the 60s they said this, and the gas crisis is late 70s and the early 80s, and they said it then, and let's see, the Twin Towers, when those went down, they said, well, that's probably going to be the beginning, and I agree that there have been many over time, false prophets. The Bible warns us about that. False prophets, false Christs, those who call themselves, and I'm not even talking about just every single pope that's come along the line, because they are false Christ, the vicar of Christ. Get out of town. Bunch of demonic people. What do you see today? Some of it you've seen before, and you're seeing again. Russia, Ukraine, China, Israel, the Middle East, North Korea, Turkey, Europe, and don't forget the current ununited states. The next civil war that comes is not the civil war of which you've read about. It's a social civil war. It's an ideological civil war. It's about ideology. Spiritual. It is good, it is evil. You have Trump, the right's false messiah, and Biden, the left's buffoon and puppet. You see, I'm not supporting either one of these gentlemen to save the world. There is no world to save. There is no America to save. That is not the destiny of this country. We're not going to rebuild. I love this whole reset idea. There's no reset. There's the end. There's no Control-Alt-Delete as I look at my keyboard. There's a delete button. You see, the irony of today's political sides, and they're so absolutely messed up. Both sides have sides within the sides. It used to be time when the left and the right, or the Democrats or Republicans, they fought like crazy. Some always will say, well, they always reached across the aisle. Yeah, that was not always the case. I love that saying. They always fought. There were maybe times, a little in between there, that maybe they reached across the aisle. But they both had two sides. Now those sides have multiple sides within those sides, and they fight each other while everyone else gets destroyed. Families separated, torn apart. Children dying. Abortions. Murder. Drug overdoses, killings. One says they want to fight for the past. Another fights for the ideas of the future. But neither side understands that the end is coming, and they cannot stop it. Conservatives are preaching about God saving America, fixing it. The other side is bent on destroying it. And, don't forget, fundamentally changing it. This country will not either be saved nor fundamentally change. Nor will the rest of the world. It will end. All of the media, the social media, television, movies, will only destroy you. whether it be physically, mentally, and or spiritually. The Christians who say they know the Bible but want to save America, I'm willing to bet have not read the whole Bible or have failed to understand the Bible in some ways. And the anti-God folks, they just want what they want. But they will end with nothing. Along with all those who do not realize we are at the end of days. Death, war, killings will and have increased. Because the world has said, no thank you, God, but with curse words on their lips and in their hearts. So don't rely on media. It has lied since it began. Governments have lied since they began. God has never lied. The words of God have never changed. Although men have tried to change the words of God. You know all the different perversions of which I have spoken of, and many others have. I'm curious, are you prepared to take on the word? Are you prepared to take on the world with nothing or the sword of God? Because in all honesty, and if you haven't figured it out now, that is the only way we're going to get out of where we are. And it is not to get out of the troubles. It's not to save America, save our country, save all these things, and make sure my house is paid off and this and the other thing. No, it is where are we going to be tomorrow? I hate to sound like the Ray Comforts of the world, but truly, do you know where you will be when you die? Will you have eternal life? How can that not be important? And some will say, well, I believe in predestiny, so if it's my time, it'll be my time. Well, you're a fool, because the Bible does not say anything about there only being a few people that are elected, and the only ones who are allowed to go to heaven. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. If you read the scriptures, don't know how you fall for it. Sorry, I don't get it. Well, I'm going to stand, I'm going to fight. Fight who? Fight what? You're fighting against God if you think you're fighting to save the world. God has said, no. The end of the world will come. Not the end of the age. The end of the world is going to come. So who are you to try to stop the end of the world? Wait, are you saying I should just let people die? And I didn't say that at all. People like to do that. They like to twist words. Guys, men, and this is specifically to men and guys at this statement, your job is to get out there and spread the word of God. Your job is to get out there and start preaching. That is your job. If you are born again, I don't care if you tell one person or 101 people. And I'm in no illusion that the more people we tell, then the better chance we have, and we'll save more people. Yes, I guess if we want to play a numbers game, and we play odds, which you shouldn't be doing anyways. This shouldn't be about trying to figure out the numbers of this and going, well, a certain percentage, a higher percentage of people that I go after, the more percent. That's not what it's about. It's not hyper soul winning. The word will fall where it goes. Your job is to get out there. Not to play little games like we do on this YouTube and rumble on social medias and pretend to be pastors and preachers out here. Actually go out there. Any moment you have. Perhaps I'm getting a little up there in volume of speech, and I apologize, but it is urgent. People have no urgency anymore. People pretend to have urgencies, but they don't really have urgencies. So those men who are calling themselves men, stop playing footsies. Stop playing cutesy with the world. Stop playing make-believe preacher and make-believe pastor. Get your boots on, get your sneakers on, get your shoes on, whatever you're wearing, get them on, get out there, and get it done. Wait, did he just preach work salvation? No, dum-dum. That's not what I preached. We are in the end. And without God, you really are at an end. I grab my Bible here. If you could turn to Romans 10:13. If you don't have a King James Bible, I will read it, but I do plead with you to get one. Why King James? Because it's the one that hasn't been changed. Wait, I thought it was changed 1881 and 1769. Yeah, I won't get into that nonsense again. These are men or boys who listen to other people and don't actually do the research and get involved. Well, my pastor says. Well, your pastor lied to you. Sorry. You know what my pastor says? My pastor says, oh wait, my pastor's the Bible. That's who my pastor is. At the end of the day, that's who. I don't care who you follow, whoever fellowship you belong to, Bible study, meeting house, building, church building, whatever it may be. There's one that will never lie to you. Read these words and you will be fine, because man will sometimes trip over their own words. Hey, I trip over my own words. Romans 10, verse 13. And I am not in Romans 10. Why am I in Matthew? I apologize. Now let's actually get to Romans. Now this is probably, I should just make a little chit chat while I try to kill time to get to the verse. For whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. It's one verse, and it's that easy. Is that easy? Well, if it's that easy, everybody can do it and they'll be saved. Is there truth and sincerity in your heart? I doubt it. Remember Simon the magician in the Bible? Someone goes, he got saved and then he blew it. No, he never got saved. Got baptized and no, he faked baptized. He just wanted the power. He just wanted to have power, just like a lot of cult members in the past, cult members that exist today, some who are starting cults and don't even realize they're starting cults. Men in these powerful positions in political arenas, pastors, all these churches, mega churches, and some don't even have to be mega churches, and they're still trying to get that power, which they seem to elude them. So if you're voting for Trump to save America, you're throwing your vote away. If you're voting for Biden to save you, you're throwing your vote away. Because it's not going to matter, neither one. The end comes whether you like it or not. It has been written. So I plead with you, if you're not right with God, this is the time. There is no better time other than 5 minutes ago. The moment is now. I thank you for tuning in. This wasn't quite an hour podcast tonight. But I don't think we should be worried so much about the time that I talk as much as the time that we have left. With that, God bless. Good night.